We stop to go to a gas station.
Yeah.
We're still in the car. We're still interacting, but we're not driving.
We're not driving. Interesting. Huh. How do you feel about that?
The best example I can think of that would be in Oblivion, where there's actually libraries and libraries of books that you can open up, and they're 20, 30 pages long, and you can sit there and read books in the game for days on end.
Wow.
That said, I don't like to read books in video games
Right.
because I could pick up like a classic piece of literature,
Like a
instead
book,
of something
for
that,
instance?
you know, Bob
Right.
on the development team wrote because they needed volume 6 for this one series.
Right. Right.
But you know, the one difference I would say in sort of the interactive conversation, like in Mass Effect, and particularly in Mass Effect, because to me, Mass Effect feels like the final product of the TOCR series, in that it's almost like Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2 were trial runs to get Mass Effect working right.
I've heard it's kind of, it's certainly an outgrowth of it.
Yeah,
I can understand that. You know,
it's basically those games,
Yeah.
but like in Knights of the Old Republic, when you get into combat, like it stops and you choose what each person will do,
Right.
and then you let it play again and see what happens. This game, you can hold out a button that pauses it so you can access your menus, but you can sit in a corner and just things will happen around you regardless.
Oh,
So-
you don't have to input others' actions?
They'll do their own thing.
Oh,
They're
that
kind
is
of-
different.
They're kind of idiots.
Sure,
So
sure.
it's usually in their best interest that you tell them what to do.
Right,
That way when you go running around a corner and they start sending grenades over the walls, they know to
Nice.
get out of the way.
Sure, sure.
But
Interesting.
the other thing is, it's also one of the first games with the sort of pre-selected dialogue options that I've seen, where the class that your character is, the interactions you have with your team, and just the inflection you put on your response. Like you'll have 3 responses. One of them will be slightly sarcastic, one of them will be sort of neutral, and one of them will be like a confrontational type of thing. And
Makes sense.
the game is actually set up so that if you haven't been paying attention to things like the proclivities of the different races, like there's actually one race in the game that when you talk with them, you better be insulting them, otherwise they they think that, you know, that you're being false with them, and that
Interesting.
you're not expressing your true emotions, and you're going to start a firefight if you're not careful. And so it does play up the whole thing where
It's clever.
that game's the first game where I didn't feel like I was just getting a bunch of dialogue for the sake of dialogue. Like everything, if you pay attention to it, will give you some bit of insight to some future dealing in the game.
Awesome.
It may not be apparent then, but you know, 20 hours later you go,
Awesome.
that one guy back in that one level said something about, I should choose this one. 'Cause
Awesome.
This one's going to get me farther.
That's
with this guy
advanced.
than-
Yeah, it's
and so they're very good about closing loops
That's
on that one. But
advanced.
it's the same format, but it's sort of,
Yeah.
I don't know how much farther they could take that, because it's sort of, to me, the perfection of that
It's the end of the
style.
road there.
Yeah.
well, I mean, I don't know. I guess I play contrarian a lot, but when I think about stuff like that, I was waiting for the day that this would be more interactive. You know, especially your choices in an RPG, your storyline choices and such. Now you said there's a race you have to be sarcastic with. Well, basically,
much,
I mean, you
yeah.
have
That's
3
awesome.
choices, but at
awesome.
that point, you really only have 1 choice.
And I understand that, but it's a choice that you, from what I understand of what you said, it's a choice that you kind of glean from your experience as you go throughout the game.
Yeah,
And the other thing, the other choices aren't useless. It's just that you may only have 1 choice that corresponds with the way your character is acting that time through the game.
right.
Because you also have the option of, instead of being like the righteous upholder of law throughout the galaxy, you can be like, you know, the evil space scum pirate guy, and then, you know, you're all about killing that guy because you just want to get his weapons and move on.
Yeah, you know, I try to go through Fable there, which is supposed to be more, you know, it's supposed to be free choice and things like that. But the problem I have with
Yeah,
the game
that's what I
was
heard.
you either end up being Mother Teresa, or you end up being a dick.
Darth Vader,
There's
yeah.
no in between.
Right.
And, you know, life is more gray than that. And
Yeah.
I'm waiting for video games to get gray. You know, at this point, we're still evil, good, and no in between whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know, it's even, you know, if you're playing it in a lot of RPGs, you always have that one bad guy that ends up joining your team or helping you out or whatever, you know. So all his atrocities that he committed before the fact are pretty much, well, you're good now, so you don't listen.
Right.
And that's the end of it. You know, it's going to be a long time before we see AI that's actually able to keep your assist characters alive long enough not to do anything stupid.
Yeah.
And dialogue that feels more free-flowing. Because I like the idea of being able to pick what you want to say, but it still feels it doesn't feel very organic yet. And I understand it's a good step forward.
Yeah. On an interesting side note to that, Mass Effect is the first game that I've played where there's a romance subplot, where you actually have the option of dating multiple people at once, and you have to hide them from each other.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty funny.
Actually, you know what? I played
Wow.
Persona 3. You do the same thing in Persona 3. You have In Persona 3, it's broken up between like dungeon crawl, school, and activities. after
School, like school
Yeah,
is in like
school.
attending school.
high school. You have
Yeah,
to pay attention
that
in
series,
classes.
your character is a high school student, and
Oh,
it's
that's
sort of like you go off
right.
into this other world
Yeah.
when you.
Wow.
I put about 140 hours in it.
That's
I
bonkers.
couldn't stop when I started playing it. But yeah, you have like several girls that eventually you can start dating. And if you start blowing one off, or if you get serious with one, the other girls will get mad at you. And,
Wow.
and it's not just dating for the sake of dating. They actually, your monsters are based on the tarot system, and every character is a representative of one aspect of that card. Be it
Interesting.
Justice, Chariot, or whatever else.
Yeah, like
So you got to max
Ogre
out.
Battle.
Yeah, somewhat
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're maxing out like a social link with that character, and you gotta be careful not to piss anybody else off.
Interesting.
Even your guy friends that get pissed off if you start hanging out with your girlfriend too much.
Interesting.
I was sitting there playing, like, God, this is my life right now. I don't.
And I still somehow don't know what to choose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Do you? I know that interactivity and social. I mean, what I hear here is social ramifications for what would otherwise seem kind of root decision making. Clearly, society is embracing video games, and from the sounds of the games you guys are actually playing more than I'm playing, video games are kind of embracing society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, which I'm personally very excited about. I think it's fantastic, and it's about time, but it does take things like ridiculous dialogue trees.
Right.
You know, it takes machines that can run cities.
Yeah.
You know,